You probably heard this before. There's no way around it. You just have to memorize all the irregular verbs one by one. Well, that's not entirely true. When you look at them closely, they do have some small patterns that can help you to learn them a little bit faster. Hi everybody, I'm Daniel and welcome back to part 5 of our new series, Spanish for Complete Beginners. If you recently started your journey learning Spanish, you've come to the right place. Today, we are talking about a very complex topic, irregular verbs, which can seem like a big challenge, especially when you're just starting out. But by the end of this video, you'll feel more comfortable using them. Why do we have irregular verbs in the first place? Wouldn't it be easier if all of the verbs just follow the same simple rules? Well, here's the thing. Languages are not like math, where you use logic, formulas to solve a problem. Languages are more like living beings. They evolve naturally. Sometimes, people who speak these languages start shortening words, or maybe they change the way they pronounce because it's easier for them that way. Think of how we use gonna instead of going to in English. And in Spanish, these verbs have become more common because they're easier to pronounce. And that's why they're tricky, because they don't follow the conjugation rules, but they do have a logic of their own. Today, we're going to cover the 7 most useful irregular verbs in Spanish. You'll use these verbs every day. We'll first see how these verbs are conjugated in the simple present, and then we'll show you how to learn them a little bit faster. Let's start with ser, which is one of the most common verbs in the entire Spanish language. You'll use it to describe permanent things like your identity, your nationality, or your profession. And here is how you conjugate it in simple present. Yo soy. Tú eres. Él, ella, usted, es. Nosotros somos. Ellos, ellas, ustedes son. Ser is irregular because instead of following the same regular endings or verbs, each form changes completely. But the good news is that since it's so common, you'll get plenty of practice. Now we have estar, which is also to be. But this one is used for temporary situations, like locations or feelings. And here's how you conjugate it. Yo estoy. Tú estás. Él, ella, usted está. Nosotros estamos. Ellos, ellas, ustedes están. Notice the stressing mark above. Está, están, estás. That's something you should keep in mind with irregular verbs. Sometimes it's just a small change like the stressing mark. By the way, if you'd like to know more about the differences between estar and ser, my friend Dania made an excellent video on it. I'll leave you the link on the description below. Another irregular verb that is very common is ir. Even though it doesn't follow the regular rules for verbs, it's very easy to learn because it's a very short verb. And here's how you conjugate it. Yo voy. Tú vas. Él, ella, usted va. Nosotros vamos. Ellos, ellas, ustedes van. Notice how this verb changes completely from ir to voy. But after the first pronoun, it will follow the same pattern as a regular verb ending in 8R. Vas, va, vamos, van. Let's now move on to tener, which is a very important verb because you'll need it to talk about things like age or possessions. And here is how you conjugate it. Yo tengo. Tú tienes. Él, ella, usted tiene. Nosotros tenemos. Él, ella, ustedes tienen. Notice how the stem changes. In the pronoun yo, we use tengo. Yo tengo. But for the following pronouns, it changes to tiene, tienes, tienen. That's because tener is part of a group of verbs that changes the stem slightly. Another key verb is hacer, which means to do or to make. And here's how you conjugate it. Yo hago. Tú haces. Él, ella, usted hace. Nosotros hacemos. Ellos, ellas, ustedes hacen. This one actually acts like a regular verb, except for one pronoun, yo. The rest of the pronouns follow the rules for an ER ending verb. To talk about what you can or cannot do, you'll use poder. And this is how you conjugate it. Yo puedo. Tú puedes. Él, ella, usted puede. Nosotros podemos. Ellos, ellas, ustedes pueden. Here again we have another stem change. Notice how most of the pronouns change from poder to puedo, puedes, puede, pueden. The only exception is nosotros, which stays as nosotros podemos. And finally, we have decir, which means to tell or to say, which you'll use a lot in conversations. And this is how you conjugate it. Yo digo, tú dices. Él, ella, usted dice. Nosotros decimos. Ellos, ellas, ustedes dicen. So, what's the pattern? Most irregular verbs fall into small categories. Some of them have a stem change, like tener and poder. Others just change the conjugation for the yo pronoun, like hacer and decir. And even though these changes may seem random initially, with enough practice, you'll start seeing them more naturally. And now that we covered the 7 most useful irregular verbs, let's now do a little test. I'll give you a few sentences. Try to conjugate them correctly in Spanish. 1. I am a student. 2. You are tired. 3. We can speak Spanish. And 4. They have a dog. And here are the answers. 1. Yo soy un estudiante. 2. Tú estás cansado. 3. Nosotros podemos hablar español. 4. Ellos tienen un perro. And how was it? How many answers did you get right? Let me know in the comments below. Remember, even though irregular verbs may seem tricky, they're not as random as they appear to be. If you pay close attention, you'll start seeing some of their patterns. Start by practicing these 7 verbs. And if you wish to expand your knowledge with irregular verbs a little bit further, check out Spanish55.com, where you can book a free consultation with one of our coaches. That's all for today, my friends. Don't forget to subscribe and give us a like if this video has been useful for you. See you next time!
Hey there! Are you on the road to conquer Spanish? Then you won't want to miss our brand new podcast, Conquering Spanish, brought to you by Spanish 55. In each episode, we dive into inspiring stories from language learners just like you. We share real-life experiences, tips, and strategies to help you along your own Spanish journey. You'll hear from guests who faced challenges, celebrated wins, and used Spanish to transform their lives, whether in their careers, travels, or personal growth. So, if you're ready to keep improving your Spanish and get inspired along the way, make sure to check out Conquering Spanish wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe, and let's continue conquering Spanish together.